So tonight we have with us one of our members that's going to give us a talk, and he recently or a year ago, in November, visited the Atacama Desert. If you know where that is, it's down in Chile, and it's where they have all those great telescopes. Yeah. Right. And Steve made a visit there, and he's going to give us a talk on that. So let's give Steve a nice warm skyscraper welcome.
And has anybody here been below the equator? A few of you. Did you go down with the intent of doing any kind of viewing, or just on business? One person did. Okay, for the rest of you, I hope that someday you get the chance, or if there's any opportunity for you to go, you really need to try and do it. It's quite a different experience than what we have up here. And a lot of this will be a bit of a travel log. I did bring an S30, a C-Star S30, a little portable imager that I was able to get in my carry-on luggage with me. And I do have some pictures with that, plus a couple of other ones. So there is some astronomy, but a lot of it is just scenery because it's a beautiful area. So let me begin. And if you have any questions, you can shout them out, and hopefully I'll remember where I left with the presentation after hearing them. So I titled this "The Lure of the Southern Skies: Daylight Sights and Nighttime Delights Below the Equator." And this was a trip that my wife Sue and I took. We took it last November. Nothing.
Is it up? Let me see this.
All right, I'll just have to manually do this. So
Can I just see it?
what? Huh? Why go to Chile instead of Australia or South Africa? For us, beyond the fact that we have been with a group that had gone a couple of times before, it's closer. It's not a bad trip. You fly to Miami, which is a few hours away. It's an overnight flight from Miami to the capital of Chile, Santiago, just 7.5 hours. And another great thing is it's almost due south of us. You have an hour time difference, but there's not any kind of a jet lag effect that you have to deal with. You don't have hours of time either in front or back of where we are that you have to adjust to. So that makes it a lot easier. And in the northern part of Chile, you've got very dry, high altitude areas that are just perfect for astronomy, and incredible scenery too. Okay.
Use your arrow keys on the keyboard as well.
All right. Nope.
Maybe it's PowerPoint if it didn't have trouble.
Oh, okay. I'll use do this. For those of you that don't know, Chile is a very long, thin country. It hugs the western coast of South America. One of the reasons that Chile is such a good area for astronomy is that you've got air that travels along the Pacific Ocean before it gets to Chile. So it's not impeded by any mountains or hills that kind of breaks the air up. It comes in very steady as a kind of a flat laminar flow, which when it reaches Chile provides with some really good seeing. And you combine that with the high altitude and the dryness, and you get some really good astronomy there. Some areas of the Atacama Desert have not seen rain for years. It's that dry. If any of you have been to the desert southwest of this country, it's dry there, but this is a whole magnitude of dryness more than what you'd find in this country. And this was off the screen on the seat in front of us. Gives you a little idea how long it takes and where it is. From Miami, it's a little over 4,000 miles. And there's that. And that's us on the airplane. And here we have just landed. And Chile is one of the more stable, modern countries in South America, which is another attraction to it. It's one of the reasons that so many observatories and astronomers go to Chile is not only because of the great seeing conditions and the really good places to site their observatories, but also because it's a stable country that encourages astronomy. So that really helps. So the first stop is Santiago, that's the capital. And you can't go really to anywhere in Chile very easily unless you go through Santiago. They do have some roads up and down the country, but a lot of people use the little local airlines to go up or down in the country because it's a lot easier to do than trying to deal with the roads and the distances.
How bad do you want to print it?
Huh?
Maybe swap that for you.
Okay.
You try something else.
Santiago's a really pretty big city. It's over 6 million residents. It's an old city. As you can see, it was founded in 1540.
Yeah.
41. Here you go. Okay.
Up for forward.
All right. And does this have a laser?
Yep.
Okay. It's a temperate Mediterranean climate, which is really nice. It never gets really too cold or too hot. And you'll see from some of the pictures here that there's a blend of modern skyscrapers, old colonial buildings, and it's surrounded by the Andes Mountains. And if it's clear, some days it's a little hazy. You can look over parts of the city and see these incredible vistas of these snow-capped mountains and large areas around it. And it's for Steve Syok here, it's surrounded by world-class vineyards, not only in the Santiago area, but also north of it as you go up kind of in the middle of the country. It's a seismically active region. There's two plates, South American and Nazca plates that are right there. So it is prone to having earthquakes, and they do build their buildings with that in mind. So even though they've had some pretty serious earthquakes, they don't generally get too much damage. I've been to Chile 3 times now, and the first time I went, which was 2015, there were a couple of earthquakes, and I remember being woken up in the middle of the night and the whole bed was kind of shaking. I was in it alone, so that, you know, I knew it wasn't from anything else going on. But it was kind of an eerie feeling. It turned out to be a magnitude 6+ earthquake off the coast, so it was pretty powerful. We were somewhat inland, but if you go there, you do stand a chance of going through an earthquake. Wrong way. So these are some scenes around parts of Chile. A lot of street activity, little street bazaars. Some of the old classic architecture. This is one of the main city squares where they have some of the government buildings around a plaza and a really old church.
The main language is Spanish?
The main language is Spanish, yes. A lot of people do speak English, but it does help to know some Spanish to get around. And this is going to be a statue of the founder of Santiago, Don Pedro de Valdivia, and that was in 1541. So a strong Spanish influence, as you can imagine, since Spain and the conquistadors were the ones that originally came there and kind of disrupted all the people that were there before them, but anyway, they settled. And this was on the way to somewhere else, but this building here, that's the tallest building, I believe, in South America. And you can see that they're not afraid of the earthquakes because they do build their buildings with the earthquakes in mind. So they know how to do that and make sure that they don't fall over. But you can see the mountains in the background, the Andes, which really makes for some incredible scenery. It's a very busy place. There's a lot going on. It felt quite safe.
They drive on the wrong side of the road. Yeah, they drive on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah, maybe the picture's backwards.
No, I think this was, I think that
Oh,
there's
that's good.
2 lanes here that kind of merged into one. I don't think they drive on the left, not from what I remember. And this was going up to a hill called San Cristobal, which is a long time park. And they have a ride up to the top of it. It's over 1,500 feet long, 900, the hill itself is 900 feet high. They have a 100-year-old thing called a funicular. It's got a really expansive view of Santiago. And this is what it looks like. It's kind of like this little railway car If any of you have been up on top of Mount Washington with the Cog Railway, it's kind of similar to that. They've got a device at the bottom of it that engages with a rail and brings you up to the top of the hill. And it's pretty steep. So you can see this is the trail up and down, and then there's a split in the middle where one car can pass another.
There's some in Pittsburgh.
Where?
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Oh, Pittsburgh.
So Montreal, Quebec.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah. Yes.
Anybody else got any other ones that they?
Auckland, New Zealand.
You need
Well,
to
I
travel
think-
more, Steve.
I think I do need to travel more. I get stuck in a rut because I like certain places. This is at the top of the hill. They have a church up there that there's a lot more church influence.
Hey.
Chile,
Skyscraper's meeting.
very Catholic
What
country.
time is it? I don't know.
So you see more shrines and churches around. And this is some of the view from the top of the hill. You can see it's pretty large city spread out by a lot of large buildings. Quite a bit of light pollution there too. We went to a winery. Yeah, I knew that would perk you up, Steve. The winery was started in 1883 by a lawyer, Melchor Concha Vittoro, and it's one of the biggest, most prominent wineries in South America. And that's some of the winery here. I think this is one of the older buildings where they used to do some of the aging of the wine casks, things. They don't use that anymore. It's still more of an exhibition area now. And they have a whole tour that goes through and explains how the winery works, what the different types of grapes are, what the process is to make the wine. And it was a pretty interesting experience. These are some of the different types of grapes that they grow in the area. Yeah, so there's a lot of different types in there. They have a lot of different soil types. And, you know, they have a fair amount of volcanic soil because it is a geologically active area. So a lot of it is pretty fertile. And so they went through and got to have explained to us all the different types of vines and grapes and everything that go into it. This is the one that they're probably most famous for, Casillero del Diablo. And there's an interesting story with this. Oops. You can take a moment to read. I'll read it to you. As the story goes, more than 100 years ago, the founder of our winery, Don Melchor Concha Vittoro, hid a prized collection of his wines in a personal cellar protected behind a wrought iron gate. Over time, he began to notice that bottles would strangely disappear. It seemed his secret cellar was now no longer so secret, and the townspeople, having heard of his exquisite wines, couldn't resist tasting them for themselves. Oops. So he needed a way to safeguard the treasure, and he turned to local folklore. He knew that people were superstitious, and otherworldly phenomena were feared by the local people. He spread the rumor of a strange nighttime events that could not only be explained by a simple fact that the devil inhabited his cellars. Fueled by the locals' imagination, each sound in the cellar, every echo, shadow, and shape gave weight to the story. So this is the story of the legend whose protagonist gave our wines a unique name, Casillero del Diablo. Portfolio destined to cross borders and become one of the most famous Chilean wine brands in the world. Have you ever had that, Steve?
No.
No.
Yeah.
So you go through their cellars, and they've got a number of different cellars with a lot of wine casks, and they have this, not so much to keep people out anymore, but it's kind of a representation of that whole kind of system that the original owner set up to try to discourage people from coming down by spreading a rumor that the devil inhabited his
Is that
storage area.
Is that underground? That's
Yes. This is all underground, constant temperature. The way it should be, right?
absolutely. No, I'm looking at an archway halfway down on the left-hand side of the picture, and I think I see something that looks like outdoors.
No, that's lights on other barrels.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, see, there's lights, there are other barrels, but there's lights, overhead lights.
gotcha.
Okay, you can go on from here. Can somebody turn the heat down a little before I faint?
Yeah.
I don't want to. It's hard enough to keep people awake during my talks without that. They have many acres of grapevines here, so as you can see, this is only one small portion. Just endless fields, which was fun to see. And of course, we had our wine tasting. And we got 3 or 4 different types, and it was pretty good, wasn't it, Sue?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
So did you put ice cubes in your wine?
No. Ah. Oh, I didn't. I waited till I got back to the hotel.
For those of you who don't know, Steve Sayak is a bit of a wine snob. And my wife likes to put ice cubes in her wine, and that just totally insults Steve.
But he's gotten over it.
No, he hasn't.
But I
Never
digress.
will.
So from here, we went on to the Atacama Desert. You go to Santiago, you need to rest up a day or so, and then you get a flight up to another city called Calama, which is where the airport is. And that's where we landed, and then we were picked up by the people from the resort we were staying at. We went to a town called San Pedro de Atacama, which was about an hour away from the airport. On the way, you do get to fly almost the entire trip past this kind of scenery, which is a lot of the Andes, which, you know, if you're on the correct side of the plane, it's really pretty spectacular. Very high mountains, always snow-capped anytime I've been there, which have been at different times of the year. Oops. And then you start to see the scenery changing from kind of the Mediterranean green, you know, somewhat treed, you know, area to just brown and kind of empty desert. They do have more facilities now. They have, I'm not sure what that is, but as you fly over, you begin to see big areas where they have kind of greenish coloring pools set out, rectangular pools. Those are places where they're distilling lithium. They have a lot of lithium deposits in Chile, and they dig that up, and then they kind of go through the process of distilling it out so that they get the more pure lithium. And that's done a lot of it in the north. They have other minerals, copper and other things that they get up there. They also have, since I was there some years ago, they put in more and more windmills, which is, this is getting closer to Calama. And then once we landed, we got into a van and drove about an hour just along a straight, almost straight road like this, further into the desert. And on the way, the highest point we went was over 11,000 feet in altitude. So the whole area where you are up there is at least generally about 6,000 feet up. I didn't feel it then. 11,000 feet didn't really bother me, but you know, you're beginning to get up there in altitude, which is, again, another reason why the astronomy is so good. You're above a lot of the atmosphere and the moisture in the air. And then we turned off a little road towards San Pedro. And this, let's see, this is a short movie that kind of shows some of the roads a little bit on the way to the resort, but just to give you an idea of, you know, these little narrow one-way roads. And I don't have sound going here because I didn't want to echo it, but basically they were telling us that if you go down the road here and somebody's coming the other way, one of you has to back up. They're all really small roads. A lot of this was never built originally with the idea of cars traveling around. A lot of these towns and cities are very old, many hundreds of years old. And as you get into the northern part of the country, you get into more of the indigenous people area where there still are quite a few indigenous natives that live up there. And it's not nearly as industrial and built up as other parts of the country. Oops. So where we stayed, there's a lot of cactus, and they have here, this is a mineral garden where they had samples of different minerals, and then around they have these nice hills and so forth. So it's kind of an interesting place to be. Dry riverbed. There are times when there's rain. They have a rainy season, which I think is, I forget exactly what time of year it is, but they do have enough rain that sometimes comes and creates these rivers and a lot of washouts. And there's another view of the dry riverbed. Another view of the mineral garden. the back end of our room to give you a little idea of what the view was like. And then one of the dinners, they had a nice grill of different types of Chilean meats and things like beef, pork, chicken, catch of the day, that sort of thing. And
Was that Yama part of the meal, or was he just there because it's?
I think that was a picture. They didn't serve any that we had.
Okay.
So that was fun.
Those corn cakes?
What?
Those corn cakes on the grill?
On the grill? Where?
These guys.
Polenta.
Polenta,
Okay,
yeah.
corn cakes. Yeah.
And one of the days we were there, we went out to some salt flats. They have 6 different types of flamingo there. And they have a lot of wildlife in certain areas. So these big open areas with the salt flats, you can see all the different flamingos there and the mountains around. Flamingos. Flamingo. And let's see. I don't know if I should try to turn the sound up on this or
Yeah,
not.
do it.
I'd have to close it out, so I'll just leave it without sound. It doesn't really add too much.
Flamingo's not talking, is it?
No. I did a panorama all around just to give you a sense of what it looks like as far as the scenery goes. And on the way to the salt flats, we stopped at a little town called Talcano, which is an old town, probably, I think it dates from the 16 or 1700s. And they have this famous bell tower there, which was built in the 1700s. And of course, we got a llama. And then another time we went out to drive into the desert and ended up going out there for sunset. And this was one of the sites. It's pretty desolate, as you can see. Not a lot of vegetation, in some areas, absolutely none. And then they had a nice little appetizer, happy hour for us, and sunset. And this is another place called the Rainbow Valley, which very colorful hills and mountains, a lot of different deposits of minerals in here. This is a volcano, one of the larger ones called Lincoln Kabur. Pretty desolate.
Ron Zincon is asking a question in chat.
No, we did not visit any rock art. And they had burros walking around. They were left by the Spanish, not indigenous to that area, but they were brought in by the Spanish settlers. And this is not a llama, this is a vicuña, which lives at a different altitude. It's a higher altitude type. It's related to llamas, but it's up at a higher altitude. And that's a nice view of the back end. I thought it was one where it was looking at me, but no. And then one other trip we took was to a place called El Tatio, which is a geyser field. Remember, I mentioned that it's a very geologically active area. They have some areas like this one in particular, which has a tremendous number of active geysers. And to go there, the best time is to go up just at dawn. You get up while it's still dark, you get into a van, you drive about an hour. And by the time you get there, you're up over 14,000 feet in altitude. And you really, if you're not used to it, you have to be really careful when you're up there. You definitely could feel it. You get out of the van, everybody was cautioning you to walk kind of slowly, take it easy, don't make any sudden moves or bend over too quickly because you could pass out. You could feel it. We weren't there so long that any of us got sick from it, but you definitely would notice the shortage of oxygen up there. And it was also roughly about 25 degrees or so Fahrenheit. It was really cold. You're up very high. It's early in the morning. It's a very dry area. So it was very interesting experience. And this is an overview. You can see all the people here, but all these different open geyser fields, you know, where the steaming hot water is bubbling up from underneath and coming up in plumes. And that's one of the geysers. They have, you know, really good crowd control here. They've got these little, like, once rock barriers around that, you know, were really, you couldn't step over them at all. Although they did say that some people were stupid enough to do that and got really badly hurt because obviously the water is quite hot. Yes.
Does Chile use geothermal power? Do they?
If they do, it's not so much that I know of. Most of this is all in the northern part of the country. And there aren't that many people up there. They do have wind power and some solar power now, which is somewhat newer. But I don't know how much geothermal they do have. I think, actually, I kind of remember that there was a pipe that came out of this that they tried to use for it, but it didn't work out too well. Maybe the temperatures were too high or it was too acidic or something.
How long do the geysers last in the morning?
They're best, they last all day, but you can really see them best in the morning because it's really cold. That's why they want to get you there early. If I could get the sound up actually on this, how would I do that?
Your best bet might just be to play it out of your PC. Do you have the volume up on your computer? Should just come right in. There you go.
No, I'm not getting any volume because I think I turned it off on this because I was getting feedback.
Oh, I needed you to take care of the feedback.
Oh, you muted me. So it's your fault.
There you go.
Get a little bit of feedback. Just so you can hear what it sounds like.
Can anybody hear that?
Well, you can hear it kind of bubbling up constantly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know how much we're gonna get.
You can see it bubbling up here, so you can't get too close to it. You don't want to get splashed by any of it, but it's constantly rising up.
It smells sulfurous.
Not very much.
They've snapped that? Yeah. Thank you.
And more, now we're starting. I need to shut this off and getting feedback.
Oh.
Sorry about this.
Comes with the territory.
There.
Fortunately.
Good. Now we're starting to get towards sunrise, which we were very grateful for because it was quite chilly at that point. Whoops. You can see the sunrise coming up along the mountains, which was pretty spectacular, but all these geysers are coming up. There we are in the mist. Trying to stay warm, then we had
Waiting for food.
waiting for food. Okay, once we were done there, they took us down the road. Didn't leave us for dead, but did take us to a pretty isolated area.
How far was that from the hotel you stayed at?
A little over an hour. And more vicuñas. And again, these are higher altitude relatives of llamas. And now we're out of the touristy type stuff, and here we'll get into some of the things that I'm sure many of you have been waiting for, some images of the night sky. If you haven't been below the equator, all the good stuff is in the southern sky. That's from Bart Bloch, Harvard astronomer. He did a lot of work with objects in the southern sky. And he's the one that Bloch globules, small dense concentrations of matter where stars are being formed, they're named after him. Uh, Most of you have seen the Milky Way, correct? Yeah. If you can see it from a place like this, where it's really dark, there are very, very few streetlights or towns anywhere, it's quite a different experience. At the time of year we went, which was in November, the Milky Way was unfortunately not very high up. We did see some other things, which I'll show you in a moment. One time we did go was for an eclipse of the sun, and we were there in July. We were there when the Milky Way was directly overhead. And it's hard to describe, but maybe some of you that have seen the Milky Way will appreciate this, but there was a place where we were staying where you could lay out in kind of a lounge chair and look up, and directly overhead at the zenith was the center of the Milky Way. To the left, where I was looking, were all the constellations and objects that I'm familiar with. From the center of the Milky Way to the right was everything that you don't really see from here, the Southern Cross, Omega Centauri, all those types of things. And the Milky Way in that area, especially when it was directly overhead and at that altitude, was bright enough to cast shadows, which is an incredible effect. You could literally see light shadows along, behind you from the Milky Way. This resort that we stayed at had a very similar type of setup for looking at the night sky. You would go up about 50 steps to the top of a hill. And they flattened it out, and they have these lounge chairs. And so you could lie out there and look around at the night sky, which and then during the day, just these incredible vistas. That's a little close up of that. And then one night we did some observing from there. We also went off site to a local observatory that's run by a guy that has basically a telescope farm. He's got all these different telescopes on these pads here, and you could go out and use any of them you wanted to. You could bring your own equipment. He also had some other buildings there that were rented out to people that want to either do remote observing or come down from other countries and go here. They have their own equipment shipped down here. He monitors it, sets it up for them. These were a group of people from Canada that came down, and they were calibrating their equipment that they would eventually go home, and he would open up the observatories on a clear night for them, and they just start taking images from wherever they were, which was pretty neat. This was a 42-inch telescope that we got to look through. I've never looked through one quite as big as that. And this gives you a sense of what the sky was like. There is some light pollution here. This is somewhat new, like everywhere else. It's started to get a little worse over the years. When I first went in 2015, you really wouldn't have seen any of this. But more and more LED lights are showing up there, just like they are here. This one is a little hotel that the guy that was taking the picture, who ran this telescope farm, was really pretty perturbed about, because it was a guy that wouldn't listen to reason, that wanted to have all these bright lights outside of his hotel, and it was kind of really taking away from this view of the night sky. You can still see pretty well though. Like, these are the Magellanic Clouds. This is what's most prominent during November. This is the large one. This is the small one. They're quite bright. They're a little bit brighter than a good Milky Way view would be for us, and they actually, you see them in pictures, they don't look all that big, but when you're there in person, they just feel and seem a little bit bigger. It's really special to see them. And this is Orion's belt, and there's the sword. Notice anything about it? It's kind of upside down. Very disorienting. All the constellations we know, and you can see a lot of them are upside down. So we did look through this. That was the first time I got to see the Horsehead Nebula visually. It was very dim, but you could see it. We also looked at something called the Tarantula Nebula, which is in the Large Magellanic Cloud, and it's considered to be similar to the Orion Nebula. It's a place where a lot of stars are being formed. but it's much, much bigger. If it was as close as the Orion Nebula, it would take up a huge amount of the sky. And that's me looking through the 42-inch, and again, Orion, see upside down. This was just a picture I took kind of handheld to give you another sense of the upside down sky. We've got the Hyades here in Taurus, and again Orion in the belt. So that took a little getting used to and trying to figure out where the constellations were, because you're just not used to that. And this, I brought a C-Star S30, and I just set it up and let it run. We all know what this is, the Orion Nebula, but you can see it's only it's only a 4-minute exposure. It's pretty dark there, so you could see, you know, it picked it up without a lot of sky glow, and it did a pretty good job there.
Question, do you have any trouble with the airlines bringing you C-Star? Obviously you didn't, did they
No, they
question
didn't,
at all?
they didn't care. They didn't look, they didn't ask. No, it was very easy to take it on. It's very small. It's like, you know, a foot by about 6 inches or so. So it's very easy to
Yeah,
put
I
in the
have,
carrier.
it's just curious.
Yeah, no problem at all taking it on the airline. And this is a 22-minute exposure of the small Magellanic Cloud. And this is the large Magellanic Cloud. This took over an hour because it's a much larger object, so I had to do it as a mosaic. This is the Tarantula Nebula, and it's a little hard to see in this S30 picture because the resolution isn't as good as a bigger telescope. But it's a very involved, convoluted, kind of knotted object, strong green, just like the Orion Nebula visually, but it's the largest, most active stellar nursery in the local universe. And it was really fun to see. And some of the other objects, some of the nebulas you could see pretty well too. And this, I set the C-Star out, let it run at night when I was sleeping, and it took a couple of objects. This is Eta Carinae, which was more of an early morning object. And the Jewel Box cluster, this is one of the nicer open clusters in the southern sky, colorful, very compact. And that was just a 1-minute exposure.
How big is that in comparison to the Pleiades?
This one, the southern Pleiades,
No.
it's much smaller.
Okay.
It's a much more
Yeah.
compact, discrete object. This is called the southern Pleiades, which and it's similar in size to
Even in
our Pleiades.
the northern Pleiades fill the whole screen.
Yeah. And this was nice to see. It's a harder object for us to see because it's pretty low in the southern horizon, but it was quite visible, and you could see a lot of detail in it through some of the telescopes. They had an 18-inch telescope we could use, some smaller ones. The 42-inch didn't look at this with that because that was kind of reserved for some of the, you know, dimmer objects as well as some of the more spectacular ones. Those are the only night sky pictures I have. I was only able to bring the C-Star. I can't very easily bring a big telescope, but at least I had that, so I have some good memories. And I did bring some binoculars, so we did get to see some nice pictures because of that. And this is, I think, Cerro Tololo Observatory. As you fly back, you fly over some of the mountains that kind of get closer to the coast, and that's where some of the big observatories are. This is La Silla. Right along here with different telescopes. There's a pretty big one there. And that's the end. That's all I got. Any questions?
Customs requirements getting to Chile, visas required or just passport?
Just a passport. They do have a piece of paper you have to get. They use physical paper that is something you have to keep and show them on the way out. It's like an exit visa type of thing. A lot of South American countries like their bureaucracy and paper, so they still do some of that. Other than that, it was a very simple, easy process. There's no big deal getting in or out. Again, nobody seemed to care whether I had a C-Star or not. I didn't bring up any questions. I brought it there. I brought it to Florida. I mean, it just never becomes an issue on an airplane. So if you have one, then yeah, take one, take it.
Hey, what's the currency in Chile?
They use Chilean pesos. And it's a pretty favorable
Exchange.
It's like 10,000 to 1. I forget, do you remember, Sue?
I don't remember, but it was cheap.
It was cheap.
Real cheap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was definitely cheap, and it was good. I mean, the food there is excellent. They have a lot of different types of meals, and we do some of the same. I mean, some of the good stuff is that does feel like you're going to another country. Some of the bad stuff is in Santiago. They have subways, they have the Jersey Mikes, they have, you know, Pizza Huts. So we've managed to export all of the bad stuff that we have here. If you can go below the equator, it's well worth it just to see the night sky. The observatory we went to with 42 inches, not the only private observatory they have. They have a lot of observatories, not only in the northern part of the country, but a little bit further south towards an area called La Serena, which is midway between Santiago and where we were. And they have quite a few private observatories there with some decent sized telescopes. And they really like to cater to amateurs because the skies are so good and there's a market for that. So, you know, you don't have to go down and, you know, expect to, you know, just have a pair of binoculars. You can, and nothing else. You can oftentimes find various places that you will have telescopes that you can use, which, you know, I highly recommend.
Did you see the Nazca lines? I'm
No.
asking. Did not see that.
No, that's not in Chile.
Okay.
They're, I believe they're in Peru.
Peru. Okay.
Yeah, further north than where we were. Although you could have them where we were because it's so dry, nothing changed there in a decade. Okay.
How cold does it get up there?
What?
How cold does it get at night?
It kind of depends on the time of year. When we went in November, that's their summer. The seasons are reversed. In July, when we were there, it was pretty cold because that's their winter time. And actually, in July, I thought the skies were a little bit better. They were clearer. When we went to November, it was good, but there was a fair amount of haze. Some dust gets picked up by the desert. There's a lot of wind there because of the heat. So you do get some dust in the atmosphere, and the transparency was okay, but I wish it could have been a little better. And as far as it gets cold at night, 40s and 50s, not bad. No.
Right, thank you, Steve.